Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to break down a powerful pattern you see in movies and TV all the time, often without even realizing it. We're talking about how media shapes our perception of entire groups of people by casting them as the other.
So let's just dive right in. Take a second and think about a show or a movie you've seen, where there's a character or a group that's clearly presented as not one of us. What was it about them? Was it their accent, their clothes, maybe the kind of music that played whenever they showed up? What signaled to you that they were different?
If a few examples just popped into your head, you are definitely not alone. This storytelling trick is everywhere. I mean, from the obvious stereotypes in shows like The Simpsons or Aladdin, to the way a character like Eleven in Stranger Things is totally isolated, or even how an entire nation like Wakanda is intentionally separated in Black Panther. It's a really fundamental tool in storytelling.
To really get a grip on how this works and the kind of impact it can have, let's look at our first case study, the way Muslim Americans were portrayed in the media, especially in the years right after the 9/11 attacks.
Yeah, in the early 2000s, this very specific, and let's be honest, very damaging narrative became incredibly common. Think about shows like 24 or Homeland. They consistently framed Muslim characters as potential threats, and that had a huge influence on how the public saw things. And this really gets to the core of the problem. A stereotype isn't just some innocent mistake. It's a powerful tool that basically strips people of all their complexity. It takes a diverse group of millions of individuals and just flattens them into one single, simple, and often pretty negative idea. And this has a very real impact. As one student put it just perfectly, when a group is only ever shown in one specific context, in this case, terrorism, it completely removes them from the picture of everyday life. They stop being your neighbors or your coworkers, and instead, they become defined exclusively by a threat.
Okay, now let's look at how this same pattern can show up, but in a totally different way. This next example is from a few decades earlier. It's an image that a lot of people remember, but very few know the actual complicated story behind it.
This ad was incredibly effective. I mean, the image of this stoic Native American man, just so saddened by the destruction of the environment, it really pulled on people's heartstrings. It became a huge, powerful symbol for the whole environmental movement. But here's the twist that changes everything. The man who became the face of a Native ecological consciousness, he wasn't Native at all. His name was Iron Eyes Cody, and he was actually an actor of Sicilian descent who had pretty much built his entire career playing Native American roles. And this is just a brilliant illustration of a different kind of othering. Instead of being a threat, this ad turned an entire group of people into a symbol. It basically borrowed a culture's identity to serve an outside story about environmentalism while completely ignoring the real, present-day issues and voices of Native American communities.
So we have these two really different examples, right? A modern threat on one hand and a tragic symbol on the other. But what's so interesting is that when you put them side by side, you see they reveal the exact same pattern of misrepresentation.
Just look at this comparison. It doesn't matter if a group is cast as a villain to serve a story about fear or as a silent symbol to serve a story about nostalgia, the result is identical. They get flattened into a one-dimensional other, stripped of their individuality and made outsiders, either to modern society or even to time itself. As another student so insightfully pointed out, that's really the heart of it. The fundamental problem in both cases is that these portrayals stop us from seeing people in their full, complex humanity. Okay, so if that's the problem, what's the solution? Well, it all really comes down to one crucial concept: authenticity. It's about the power of letting people tell their own stories. The first and maybe most personal impact of authentic stories is on the people themselves. It gives them the power to finally see themselves reflected in our shared culture, not as a stereotype, but as real people with their own lives, their own struggles, and their own joys. And beyond that, these stories are one of our most powerful tools for dismantling prejudice in the wider society. Because when you see a character that breaks the mold you've been shown over and over again, it starts to chip away at those fixed, oversimplified ideas. And ultimately, when people tell their own stories, it does way more than just change a narrative. It builds the one thing that stereotypes are designed to destroy: empathy. It forces us to stop seeing the label and start seeing the person. The insights and those great student responses we've been talking about were drawn directly from an excellent lesson plan on media representation created by the team at Sociology by Design.
The media we consume really does shape how we see the world. So now that you can spot this pattern of othering, the next time you're watching a show or a movie, ask yourself, who is telling this story? And maybe just as importantly, whose story isn't being told? Thanks for watching.